And this is Richard Eskow. We are back on the Thom Hartmann program, and I'm particularly partial to 12-string guitar, so I liked that music cue a lot. I love playing 12-string guitar, too. But anyway, on to the news of the day. We're going to listen to some clips in a minute because I promised that we would talk more about this whole, and I'm looking for my clip sheet now, which I had right in my hand. There it is. Yeah, we're going to start with, our first clip is going to be Donald Trump talking about the Iraq War in 2002, on the first anniversary of the 9/11 attack, talking with Howard Stern. See, you know, we promised we would talk more about this because he was not pressed on it. We're going to do the work for Matt Lauer that Matt Lauer didn't do before he had a national forum and an audience of millions, because who preps for that, right? So let's hear clip one if we can. This is Trump on the Howard Stern show.
Are you for invading Iraq?
Yeah, I guess so. You know, I wish it was. I wish the first time it was done correctly.
Okay, so first of all, look, I have been as critical of Hillary Clinton as anyone for her Iraq vote. But the fact is, when you're a leader, when you're a political leader, whether that's when you're sitting in the Senate, for example, and you have that button in front of you that says, it says aye or nay. It doesn't say, I guess so, okay? I guess so when you're in a position, when you're president of the United States is a yes. Okay, that's a yes. It's not, and to me, that is not an impressive leadership profile. Donald Trump's supposed to be the you're fired, the decision maker. I guess so is a pretty lackluster way to express support for military offensive that cost thousands of American lives and tens of thousands or more of Iraqi lives. So unimpressive. Let's listen to clip two, which is Trump at a forum. I don't have a date for this, but from when? Okay, all right. Oh, right, of course. Okay, this is from this week. Let's hear Trump again.
Radio, totally folks, against the war in Iraq. You can look at Esquire magazine from 2004. You can look at before that. And I was against the war in Iraq because I said it's going to totally destabilize the Middle East, which it has. It has absolutely been a disastrous war.
There you have it, back to back, two contradictory statements. Why couldn't Matt Lauer do that? And again, you know, I feel so bad beating up on Matt Lauer because he seems like such a nice man, okay? On the other hand, who knows? I like Dan Curry, too. Okay, now let's talk a little bit, since we're talking about, we said we would deconstruct Matt Lauer's, this whole concept of the forum. Let's talk about that a little bit. We have a clip, and I'll tell you why I want to play this. Let's play clip 3.
Good evening, everyone, from the carrier Intrepid here in New York City. Just a couple of short months, Americans are going to vote in a critical election. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are vying not only to become president of the United States, but one of them will become the leader of the most potent military force the world has ever seen. I'm standing in a place where I can actually see the site of the World Trade Center. 15 years ago this week, the worst terror attack on American soil changed the world and launched this nation into years of war. Tonight's forum's a great opportunity for these nominees to talk about national security and the complex global issues that face our nation. And they'll get to tell you why they are ready for the role of Commander-in-Chief.
Okay, here's what bugs me about this whole setup, okay? Number one is, you know, since the Second World War, I guess, or the last few generations, we have turned this whole notion of commander-in-chief into a fetish. It's a way of fetishizing the military role of the president, and it's a way of making the president more of a general, more of a sort of Alexander the Great figure than someone who leads a democracy. Commander-in-chief that phrase was never meant to be a title given to the President of the United States. Commander-in-Chief is used as a way of making it clear to the military and to the American people that the United States Armed Forces serve at the pleasure of the American people. The title Commander-in-Chief tells us that the democratic process is what governs the U.S. military. So it is not there in order to glorify the military. It is there in order to make it clear that the military are governed by democratic process. Now, by making this a big title for the president, what we're doing is saying our president is our commandante, our general, our supreme commander. That's not what we should be doing. And if you saw the visuals for that Matt Lauer introduction, you know, he's on the Intrepid, you see all the warplanes, and then you cut away to where the Twin Towers were. You know, it's all very warlike. It's contrary to the spirit in which the whole relationship between the president and the military was created, which is that of democracy, that of turning the military from a dominating force to one that works with and for the American people. So that part of it really bugs me a lot. And, you know, we've talked a lot about the fact that Matt Lauer was overly deferential to Donald Trump. He didn't interrupt him. He didn't challenge Trump on clearly false statements like, I was always against the war. But how did he treat Hillary Clinton, by contrast? Now, as I've said earlier in the program, I have a lot of criticisms of Hillary Clinton's foreign policy, but whether you agree with her or not on every issue, let's just look at the way she was treated by the host of this commander-in-chief, quote-unquote, forum. We have a clip of that. It's clip 4. Is clip 4 ready? Okay, let's play clip 4.
Not taking it and permitting there to be an ongoing civil war in Libya would have been as dangerous and threatening as what we are now seeing in Syria.
I'm going to jump in. Thank you very much for your question.
To exert the kind of pressure through sanctions that the United States alone could not do.
Right, but you said you think you're going to cheat.
Look, this is an important issue. And so I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to work with everybody. I'm going to make together, and we're going to fix the problems in the VA.
Sergeant, thank you very much for your question.
So whether or not you love Hillary Clinton, candidly, this should make your blood boil. And it makes my blood boil because here you have one candidate, Donald Trump, who is clearly a joke. It's not a matter of whether you agree or disagree with his policies. He's clearly unfit for the office. He clearly has no grasp of the issues. He makes stories up, as we discussed earlier, about national intelligence briefings. He is a comic opera buffoon, and he is treated with the ultimate deference by Matt Lauer, who, to be fair, his job is treating inane, empty-headed celebrities with ultimate deference. So he brought those chops to this forum. But here you have somebody who just happens to be, by the way, a woman who is constantly being interrupted and talked over and corrected by a man, which I suspect is an experience that is familiar to every woman who has ever participated in, let's say, a holiday dinner discussion with the extended family. So you have the sexism, you have the preferential treatment, you have, it's really outrageous. And if the networks can't do better for the debates that are coming up, these televised forums and debates are going to turn out to be moments of disgrace for the American media and the American political process. Let's hope that that's not the case, but I am very, very afraid that, in fact, it is the case. So Matt Lauer, maybe he's a nice guy, seems like a nice guy, gets an F for this forum. And more broadly, let's stop fetishizing the American military. You know, I had a long talk with General Wesley Clark about this. Real military people, smart military people with integrity understand that the military should be the last option when you have a problem in the world. It should not be the first option. It should not be celebrated. It especially should not be celebrated, as one of our callers pointed out, by civilians who never saw fit to serve themselves, yet somehow think that we should idolize the military. It's not what the military does in a democracy. So let's stop all this nonsense. Let's understand that when the American people have to go to war, which, by the way, is far less frequent than people would have you believe, but when the American people have to go to war, One, it's the American people that go to war, not the military. They are acting as our proxies and our representatives. And two, every time we engage militarily, it is a tragedy. Every time we engage militarily, it is a failure of the political process, a failure of the democratic process. It is nothing to celebrate. It is something to mourn. So why don't we take a break now if we can, and we will be back with more after this. I would hope you stick around. I'm Richard R.J. Eskow, sitting in for Thom Hartmann.